This is the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, show 66, How His Butt Saved Our Butts, with Marley and Wayne Baird.
It went by really quick. Like, I was healed up in like 2 weeks.
And then what happened?
And then I went dirt biking again, and I crashed into a tree.
Her face. And then what happened?
I was like, you are not allowed to get on that dirt bike until after the wedding. I need you to walk down the aisle in one piece.
Hi, Ariana here with a quick PSA about why this topic is so important to us. Tom and I know how challenging it can be to start and run a business, to take care of your loved ones, and on top of it all, to keep a healthy relationship with your spouse. It isn't easy, and that is why we created our Lifestyle Builders Mentorship Program. As a special offer during this very special Couples and Entrepreneurship Month, we'd like to invite you to get started with your first month of Lifestyle Builders for only $1. So if you, and your spouse is welcome too, need more strategy, support, and guidance in your business and life, plus people who truly care about you and will keep you accountable, sign up now at tomandariana.com/LBcouples with the code LBcouples. A little bit more about our guests before we jump into today's Couple and Entrepreneurship Series episode. Wayne and Marley Baird are the powerhouse couple responsible for taking entrepreneurs from visionaries to purpose-driven thought leaders through use of their dynamic content, viral footage, and strategic video marketing. As owners of Marley Baird Media, they work together to make global impact through their commitment to each other and their clients. Uniquely positioned with an industry where ethics, integrity, and substance can often become clouded over by the trending desire for vanity statistics, they daily use their skills to give substantive voice to celebrities, influencers, and world-renowned companies. All right, you guys, we had such a fun time with Marley and Wayne talking about how they got to the point they are now. I mean, they both used to have full-time jobs. Marley started her social media business on the side, and now Wayne has left his 9-to-5 and works with Marley in Marley Baird Media. So it was a really cool transition.
I was going to say, and I'm not going to ruin it for you.
No, we can't give away the secret of the title. You guys have to listen for that.
I was going to say, the title for this episode came directly from it, and it was awesome. But, I think what's cool is this is now, we've had so many different entrepreneurs on, but another example of, one person being the entrepreneur and then the other person eventually leaving their job and joining the business. And what we got into a little bit with this episode is it's not like you just left your job and now neither of us do anything all day. They really talked about like, hey, it's still work and, we're working together, but I think they actually had a quote like, but we wouldn't trade it for the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what working with your spouse is really all about is it's like we're building this thing and we get to have our wins together. And then, I think what they really did well was that when they had challenges, they figured out really well how to communicate and help each other through it.
They were each other's biggest support system with the challenges that came up in the business and in life. And I think that's really strong because a lot of us don't necessarily have that with our spouses or with the people that we're closest to. So I commend them for being able to get through all the struggles early on and get to the point they are now for the type of communication that they have with each other, the type of relationship that they have with each other. You can tell like they're just very in tune.
Yeah, I mean, I love just watching them interact on there. And I think I even drew a couple of the conclusions on there. So with that, we'll let you guys get to the episode.
Enjoy. All right, everyone, we are here with another episode in our Couples and Entrepreneurship series. And today we're welcoming Marley and Wayne Baird on the show. Hi, guys.
Hi. Oh, this is so fun.
We're so excited to have you guys on and talk about your story and kind of how you got to where you are. And I think the first thing that we wanted to dive in was you shared with us that when you were kind of starting your business, you and Wayne were on different paths where he was in a 9-to-5 and you were in the business. And that started to cause some disconnect for you guys. Can you tell us kind of how that progressed for you and how you now ended up working together in the business?
Yeah, well, when we first met, we were both in 9-to-5s. When we first met, I was working for an event management company. And then after that, I went back to my dental hygiene career. And Wayne was always working in trade. So we had similar schedules. Yeah. And then I started growing a business on the side doing social media. And then that grew into video marketing and grew into this big business that it is today. Yeah. but I was working crazy hours. Of course, like that's what they say. You leave your job where you work 40 hours a week for someone else to work, like 80, 100 hours a week for yourself. And that's what my life was like. And I loved it. But Wayne didn't understand that he wasn't in the business, didn't even understand the things that I was doing. And so that made it really tough for us that there were times where I'd have deadlines or just lots of work on my plate that I would stay up late when he'd be going to bed, and even sometimes going to bed when he was waking up for work, which is not healthy, and I don't do that. But and that was also a lesson for me in boundaries with clients and taking care of my commitments. But it was just really hard because he didn't understand what I was doing, and I felt like I didn't have the support, but I also couldn't really show him what I was doing. It was hard to, I guess, kind of explain.
Yeah, it was a different, it was a long transition. It was like, because we used to, everything was like family oriented. We'd have dinner together every night, and then we'd make dinner together, and we'd do a lot of stuff together. And then it was just like she was working, and then I was in my 9 to 5, and I was kind of doing it all by myself kind of thing. So
yeah, we were totally going different directions for a long time.
Yeah. So Wayne, did you plan to become an entrepreneur at all, or did that just kind of did you get pulled in through what Marley was doing?
I kind of got pulled in. Actually, I worked in trades, and all the guys that I worked with, they're like, why are you even here, man? You should be at home working with your wife. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And the thought of it was really cool at the time. But and then I kind of asked her, like, if what would be like valuable to you that I could help you do in your business. And she's like, well, you could be a videographer and help me run my business. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm on it.
So was that a difficult transition? Because I know, like, I was the entrepreneur. I was the one starting businesses. And whenever I would talk about with Ariana, she just had like this fear come up, or she was like vehemently against it. Yeah. Did you just kind of naturally fall into that? Like, yeah, I didn't plan on it, but once we started talking about it, it happened? Or was there a little bit more to it than that?
No, even when I asked her the first time, she said I could be a videographer, I was kind of hesitant, and I didn't really want to do it. And there's still parts of me that miss, working in trades, and you go from working with a big group of guys and working on a project together versus now you're kind of on your own, and it's like sink or swim kind of thing. So that transition was super hard, and being in trades, I was always moving constantly, move, and lift stuff and do stuff all day, whereas now I kind of had to just sit and think and figure out how I was going to do this. There was a lot of strategy behind it also. Yeah,
a very physical career to now like creative, emotional, mental. And even that transition was tough too, just communication-wise with, I also didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I worked in radio and event management, and then in dental hygiene, and then all of a sudden created this video and social media business. And I was learning leadership and learning management, but now here's also my husband who's working in the business with me. I didn't want to be his boss. I just wanted to be his wife, and I just wanted us to work together. So to communicate, like, here's what I need, was really tough because I didn't want to seem like I was micromanaging or telling him what to do. And I also just expected, I didn't really have expectations. I just thought it would fall into place.
I love that, though. And I think I really appreciate your honesty there, because I think so many people are feeling those things, but maybe are hesitant to say them out loud, where, it's like we talked about it on another episode. It's like a dance where, you have to figure out where someone is leading, and then when it's your turn to lead, and how you're going to choreograph things together so that you're not stepping on each other's toes the whole time. And I think, one of the things you talked about was that communication. We had a lot of struggles there as well, because we're very different personality-wise. Oh, yeah. So me being the one coming from the 9 to 5, being like, oh, well, let me kind of help you in the business. Do you need help? It was that sort of like, he didn't want to micromanage me, but I needed somebody to tell me exactly what to do, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not the entrepreneur. I don't have the vision, of what this business is supposed to look like. So we've had to figure that out. And we still, to this day, at each time we do something new in the business, it's like we would have to reset those roles of like, okay, whose is this? And then are you kind of doing that on your own? Are you delegating it out to other people? Is this something that I need to have a part in? And then how are we going to communicate about those parts and all those moving pieces? Because that's where we always find the disconnect, is when we're both trying to like help the other person do the thing that they're supposed to do, but we haven't set those expectations.
Totally. Yeah. And that was definitely a struggle for us, was learning how to communicate those things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always, it's not a good thing. It's the communication the whole time in order to get the outcome that you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Marley, when you went from, just doing the business, because I believe the timeline was you left your 9-to-5 to do the business, right? And then eventually Wayne joined you?
Yeah, but funny story.
Oh, we love those.
We love those. I was a dental hygienist, and I was totally overbooked. Like, I was doing social media on the evenings and weekends, and like in between patients, I'd run to the bathroom and be on my phone and do social media. And so I was busy, and I was starting to reduce my days at the dental office, and I was on the fence that I'm like, do I go all in? Do I leave? What should I do? But of course, like, a lot of people get stuck in that security of a 9-to-5. And so I was like, I don't feel ready yet. And really, Wayne made the decision for me, because it was 2 months before our wedding. We're out at the lake for the weekend, and Wayne had this terrible dirt biking accident. He did like a catwalk, and he fell backwards and he landed and like skidded on his butt. So the joke is like, he has no butt, and his butt saved mine. He had terrible road rash on his butt. I'm sorry, honey. He had he fractured his tailbone. He had both of his arms in casts, and you know how they like put the cast around your elbow that he couldn't even like reach his mouth because
no.
And of course his butt is broken. So I couldn't go to work. Obviously he's broken, and so he calls his work, and he has like a layoff, like a medical layoff or whatever you call that. And I called the dental office and said, I can't come to work today, and I don't know when I can come back. And that was when I went all in. We had our wedding in 2 months. So, and I was like, I don't want to have to borrow money from my family or a loan or whatever. So we went all in, and we made it. We paid for the wedding. We paid for the honeymoon, and it worked. And so that was our go time. And I take that as a sign, and we always make that joke about his butt saved mine.
That's awesome, by the way. I would totally like use that at every party.
Yeah. Or there's lots of puns. Like, I think one of the jokes at our wedding, my dad said, like, no skin off my butt. But yeah, so the timeline was that that accident happened. It was like, our wedding was in August, so it was about June of 2016 that I went all in on the business. And then we had our honeymoon. Wayne went back to work in about September, October, and then he left his job in April, the following April.
Oh, nice.
So I'm curious, you guys obviously were on a path, and like, we're big on planning, like, figure out what you guys want to do, set some steps and kind of work there. So it sounds like you guys were on one path, and then obviously this came up and completely threw that off.
Yeah.
Did that cause you to get more focused on the business and make it work? Because you said you went from it being a side business to now you paid for the wedding, paid for the honeymoon, and then were able to go full time. Like, what do you think led that to ultimately work? Was it the accident, or were you on that path and the accident just pushed it forward?
That's a great question, because I think I started it as a side business, and it was something that really fell in my lap. Like, it was just my dental office. I was doing their social media, and then their IT guy referred me to another one of his clients. And then from there it was referral. I wasn't looking for it. And then I was like, oh, you can do this as a career. You can make money from this. Cool. And so I started to think, well, whoa, what if I could leave the dental office? Because people don't even like going to the dentist. What do you think it's like working there? So I thought, like, I can get out of this and work for myself. This is amazing. But I didn't have any plan for when that would be or how much money I had to make for me to feel like I could leave it. So it kind of just, it eventually came there. But I think Wayne's accident is what I don't know how long it would have taken me to actually leave if that Wayne's accident didn't happen.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And I know we've had a couple other people that we've known over the last couple of years who have been to the point where like they could leave, but like you said, that security and kind of having that thing that you've always had, you're like, oh, do I leave? But everything is so good. And just, it is that sticking point. And I think there has to be something to get you to say, I'm ready to go now and I'm going to do it. Because otherwise, like you said, you probably get stuck and just kind of stay and just, it would just keep going and going and going. And unless you have something telling you or something indicating like, hey, it's time to leave, which in this case, it was a bad accident, but ended up being really good for you guys.
Yeah.
So how did that, I just want to know, how did that recovery go for you, Wayne? Like how
Funny
did
story.
you...
It went by really quick. Like I was healed up in like 2 weeks.
And then what happened?
And then I went dirt biking again and I crashed into a tree.
Her face. And then what happened?
I was like, you are not allowed to get on that dirt bike until after the wedding. I need you to walk down the aisle in one piece.
Oh,
So we had a similar thing happen. Ariana was playing soccer. We're actually playing co-ed soccer. I skipped because I had work the next day. It was like late at night. She comes home. She tore her ACL. So she goes through like a whole year of rehab.
6 months of rehab.
Her first game back to soccer, what does she do? She tears it again. So we had to sit down and have the conversation like, look, we want to have kids and you probably don't want to be pregnant with like a third ATL tear on like crutches.
Yeah, I gave it up.
I was going to say, you and Wayne are more alike than I think we realized early on.
You can't give up those hobbies.
So Wayne, I think you said earlier that when you were trading, you mostly had men around you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious, and this doesn't come up a lot, but a lot of the entrepreneurs that we talk to or that we see are males. And then if their, partners come in, it's kind of like what everyone expects. But I'm curious, how did it go for you guys with Marley being a female and kind of out leading it to then, you leaving and working with her? Like, were there anything that you had to go through or, did people say anything because that was not their traditional role?
No, I think all my buddies were just like, go for it, man.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
There were some people that were questioning, like, why would you leave your trades? Maybe this was more stable.
My family didn't really understand it. They were like, I think they were just curious as to why I would leave trades, but
also that he'd never been in a business, like he never worked in anything other than trade. So it was a leap. It was much different than anything he ever did. I think there's one thing that I'd like to bring up that was kind of something that you didn't like, and a lot of female entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs have this goal to retire their husbands.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that, and I would say that I had the opportunity to do that too, but there's a bit of a misunderstanding with that it's not like he's retired at 27 and gets to just play golf and go dirt biking. Like he joined, I wish. He joined my business and he's an essential part of my business. And it's kind of degrading to just like, I don't want people to miss out on that fact that it's not like, oh, I just did this all by myself and I got to retire him and now I'm working while he just gets to eat bonbons all day. Like I want, and that was something that you were also, you wanted people to know that I'm not retired. That's the thing.
I still work very hard. So.
Yeah, and I think that's, I never really looked at it as Tom retiring me either. It was more of we had a life in mind that we talked about. So we had the opportunity that when we had our first child, I was able to stay home with her because that's what we had talked about. But I found out I didn't really enjoy being a stay-at-home mom. So that's not ever what I wanted. We tested it out. We tried it. It was cool. But when I was running the 2 offline businesses, one of the things that I came up upon was, okay, now that I'm raising a child from home and working on the businesses, I'm starting to run out of time to be able to do the things that I'm supposed to do. So we ended up sending our daughter to daycare a couple days a week so that I could get my responsibilities with those 2 businesses taken care of. And then as we added on the 3rd business and a 2nd child, because why not? It got really, really serious really fast. And I was like, okay, now this is for real. I really can't do the stay-at-home mom thing. I've got even more responsibilities and I just didn't enjoy it. So that was one thing that we always talked about was like, if it's something that's really important to you, you have to kind of stand up and say that and talk about it because there's always going to be people out there judging you for different things and, saying different things. And it really doesn't matter what they think. It comes back down to like, what do you want your life to look like? And what do you want your role to be in that life? And I think I love that you bring that up and talk about that because I think it is really important.
Yeah, because especially men, as from what I've studied, is that they need to have a purpose and a mission. And I think that a lot of, humans in general, if you're bored and you don't have something that you're working towards, you'll that's when you die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is that purpose. We actually just talked about this on another episode where that was like creating your life purpose and then using a business to be able to go and fulfill that. So I think that's totally true. I think people have to have something that fires them up inside, that keeps you passionate about living. And whether you're working in a job or working in a business, you need to have that, because otherwise you're just going through the motions.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that you brought up the retiring thing, because I used to always tell people, like, our whole thing was we're going to be retired by 35. And a couple of years ago, I had a mentor be
Someone
like,
called him out
Tom, quit saying you're going to retire, because you're never going to stop doing what you're doing. But what you're going to do is have more control and flexibility about when and how you do it. And I love the way he framed that, because he's right. Like, if it's not this business, it'll be something else. If it's not helping people this way, it'll be helping them that way. And, like when you were talking about that, that's exactly what I thought about is, even though we leave our job, we still have to be doing something, And so, Wayne, I'm curious, as you kind of left and made that transition, what was then your future or, your passion at that point? Because obviously it's very different than what the 9-to-5 was. Now you're joining, Marley and her business, but did you have kind of a vision for, what your future would look like after that point? Or was it just jumping in and kind of seeing how it goes?
I kind of jumped in and saw how it went. I originally, when I first left my 9-to-5, Marley wanted me to do, I was supposed to do something on my own. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. So then I just started working with Marley, and then I started coming up with really good ideas and started helping her out lots. And then from then on, it was just I just want to grow Marley. Like, me personally, I don't want to be in the limelight. I don't want to do videos myself or anything like that. I just want to see her success. So that's all.
Thanks.
I love that. You guys are so cute.
So how do you guys manage the roles between the business roles and the personal roles? Because I know for us, so we went from...
We've gone back and forth a couple times, a few times.
Yeah, well, we were both working jobs. And then she ended up being home before I was home. And then when I ended up being home, now it's like, okay, we're together 24/7 and we're husband and wife, we're parents. And now we have these different roles in the business. It took us a lot to kind of figure out how we played each role, and then also how we turned it off and got back to our relationship. So what's your guys' experience been with that?
No.
I love the look.
You want to take this one? No, I got this one.
We have routines. How well do we follow them? That's always growing. The problem is that we travel a lot, and when we're traveling, we're always finding a new routine everywhere we go. Like, we're about to take off right now for a month, and then be home for a week, and then off again for another month. So we have to reset our routine everywhere we go. Mm-hmm. But in a perfect world, when we're at home, we love to spend our mornings together before we even start our day, which we have a routine where we do a walk outside, which that was a game changer for us. Just no phones, leave them at home, take our green smoothies and walk around the neighborhood. And we love that connection and just that physical activity so much. Going to the gym together, just having good conversations. And then we start our day and we have a daily huddle with our team every single day. So we're planning the business and we know our roles and everything. And then even just things around the house, there's kind of just that unspoken balance of he does this, I do this.
Or we hire people.
We hired someone to help take care of our lawn maintenance because we've been gone for so long. We're traveling so much. It was I would rather pay that person $100 and we go on a date. I don't want to spend my time doing that. So we kind of leverage so that we can spend the time that we have together. And we do date nights. Wayne took me on a surprise date this past weekend, and we always love little surprises like that and spending very quality time together. And a big part of that is also just unplugging and being us and not being us in business.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the fact that you brought up hiring, because I remember it. So when I was in college, I was painting houses in the summer between going back to school. And we were painting these they were all $1 million houses. And I remember one of the guys that I was painting with, he was these guys are so lazy. They have somebody come like mow their lawn. They have somebody clean their house. And he was just going off on how lazy these people were. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was sitting there, I'm like, these guys are geniuses. Like they figured out a way to where they make enough money to then hire people to do all the stuff they don't want to do. And I remember when he said this, they were actually in cooking like a Sunday morning meal for their family and everyone else was working. And I was like, that's the key. Like set it up so that you do what you want and the things that you don't want to do, you're hiring and delegating out, because now not only are you really focused in on what you're good at and what you enjoy, but you're then also helping other people because you're employing them and giving them jobs.
That's not lazy. That's leverage. Yeah. That's a quotable. Let's put that on.
Yes.
Yeah. Because last week Wayne was, I'll go mow the lawn today. And I was like, no, don't. If your time is worth however many dollars an hour, like, in business, we say, like, what are the $10,000 an hour tasks versus what are the $10 an hour tasks? I can pay someone and employ them and help to provide for them. And in whatever I choose to do with my time, whether it's a revenue generating opportunity in my business or just relaxing and being with my husband because I deserve that.
Yeah.
I would much rather spend that money.
Yeah, well, and you make a good point too of, sometimes I find people just look at their business when they're looking at those things. But there's a lot of stuff in our lives that we can do to really make our lives simpler and allow us to focus not only on revenue generating activities in the business, but also like the random date nights and the stuff that we enjoy doing in our personal life that we may not, because like I find a lot of people they get so focused on making more money or doing those things, but they forget about spending that quality time and living life, which is usually the whole reason we're doing our business.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's that investing thing. People are used to investing when you're in a business. When it comes to investing in your personal life, they don't look at it that way. It's looked at as, that's an extra expense. But I think it really should be looked at as it's an investment in your personal life because you want to take back that quality time that you normally wouldn't have if you were doing all of those tasks. Plus, if it's something you don't like doing, and you can afford to hire somebody else to do it, like, why would you keep doing it? Now you're helping your mental health because you're not stuck doing yard work, which I hate weeding. I don't even know why we have gardens. I just want to dump them all.
Yeah.
And the whole reason we started it anyway was so that we can have more time to do the things we love. So
yeah.
May as well do it.
Yeah, I agree.
So
time.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm curious. So
you're very curious.
I am very curious. One of the biggest challenges that I think we've had was not being able to communicate as we get to different levels in our business. So, and you guys are probably seeing this now. I know you're starting to hire and kind of do some of those things. What we've seen is that every time entrepreneurs kind of they're close to like leveling up, things get different. And what worked before maybe now doesn't look exactly the same. So I'm curious, like, as you guys are now starting to level up your business, or as you've done different pieces in the past, is there something that you guys do to kind of help each other get through those tough times?
What do I do?
We just have
I think sometimes the things that we'll do is we'll just take it off each other's plate or find a distraction. Like if I'm stressed about something, Wayne is definitely my go-to. That if something's on my mind, and especially I just have the kind of personality that I can get so consumed by anxiety and dwell on things. Mm-hmm. And Wayne is just my security blanket that I just go to him. And walks, oh my gosh, the walks outside are a game changer for us. So that's something that I really look forward to when I need it, when we're going through something.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think our communication's pretty good because if we ever need to make a transition or a change in the business, we talk about it and we see if we can invest in something, and then we just go for it if we know we can. So.
I think we have a pretty good. We're both very focused on having good mindsets and positivity, and we do have a really great communication system within our business and our team, so that everyone knows whose responsibility and who's contributing where. And we kind of do that in our relationship too, that we know who's got the ball and whose expectations. And yeah.
For sure.
Well, I was going to say, and just hearing you guys, what it seems like I know for us, we've had to put a lot more work into it. because some of this wasn't as natural, it seems like one of the things you guys do is that when you run into a problem, you turn towards each other and look for that help. And it seems like regardless of which role you guys are in, it's like, okay, here's the challenge, and then you guys work through it together, which we find a lot of couples actually don't do, because we've got all these different roles, and sometimes we might not have the right mindset in place. But I think that's really cool that you guys are, it's like, hey, you know, we're in this relationship, but regardless of what kind of challenge I'm facing, I know I can come to you first, and therefore probably strengthens the relationship.
One of the things that Wayne calls me out on that's so annoying, but but it's one of those things that it's annoying because he's right. And it's the best thing.
Those things.
Don't you hate it? But it goes both ways. Is if I'm like, let's say if I'm upset about something, the first thing he does is make me acknowledge that I'm making an interpretation about something, and remind me that there are a million other interpretations that I could have made about that situation, and then usually asks me how it's serving me by sitting in that emotion or whatever. And then it forces me to acknowledge that I'm being stubborn, or that I'm making a judgment or interpretation about something. And he's just this just wise old man inside.
I was going to say, those are some powerful questions.
Yeah, and that's a great exercise. We learned this from our mentor, Jim Fortin, that if you are upset about something, first acknowledge that you're making an interpretation, and then make 10 other interpretations. Like, come up with 10 possible interpretations of that. So here's an example is like, let's say that my sister said something mean to me. I got to come up with 10 interpretations. She's a jerk. She's jealous of me. She's mean, whatever. But after you come up with like 4 or 5 interpretations, you have to get creative. And that's where you start. You have to start looking on the other side. Well, maybe I triggered something for her that made her insecure. Maybe something happened to her and this actually has nothing to do with me. And so when you start to look at, there are so many other interpretations that can be made, you really remove yourself from the situation and can see it from a different perspective and can move forward with a clearer mind.
I love that. I'm going to start using that on you.
You absolutely should. Well, you know, I was going to say, kind of related to that, when we just kept butting heads, because like, I'm naturally like a big picture thinker, and I get an idea and then I'm like, let's go.
He just goes.
But with Ariana, every time I would do that, she would start, like, from my perspective and my interpretation was, she would start just telling me all the reasons it wasn't going to work. And I would get so frustrated. And what we ended up doing was we took a handful of personality tests. We read the results and then we shared it. And what that started doing for us was realizing that one interpretation that we had, one, was wrong most of the time. But then 2, I think got us thinking into those other things. And
what almost taught us how to interpret how the other person would take that situation. Yeah. So I started to look at when I get upset and I get emotional and tears start flowing, because it happens more often than not. Yeah. He's going to have an interpretation of what that means. So if I can say, you are not the person making me upset right now, and these emotions are just a reaction, that helps him kind of deal with the situation. And then the same sort of thing with when he gets upset or shuts down because we had a conversation and it didn't go the way we all wanted it to. My interpretation might be that he's pissed and, he doesn't want to talk to me, but it really should be he processes his emotions differently. He's not going to sit and just cry it out like I would and then be good to go. He has to process them his own way. So as we started to understand that about each other, I think that has helped us immensely with our communications and just kind of like putting those things out there when we're in a meeting and it's like, okay, this is starting to get frustrating. Maybe I need to go take a break for 10 minutes and then we'll come back and continue. But you have to do the work behind that. And I think that's something that's really difficult for people who have been in a relationship for some time, and then to kind of have to start shifting and changing some of those roles that you play and some of those thoughts that you have in your head. It's a little bit of work. So it is going to take some time, and it does sometimes get harder before it gets easier as you're working through those communication struggles, I think. But I love that, like the 10 interpretations. I'm going to remember that one. Yeah, it's a good exercise. And even just hearing what you said, it sounds like Tom is like the visionary and Ariana, you're the integrator, and every business needs that. It's like Walt and Roy Disney. Sure, Walt Disney was the visionary who created all these characters and magic ideas, but then it was Roy who really was the backbone and the person that actually made it happen. And sometimes that means being a bit of a party pooper to say, well, here's the way it has to be done. Let's be realistic. You can't just
creative, magical part, but he did. But
Yeah. Yeah, that was my term for a long time. I'm Tom's reality checker, because every time he comes up with an idea, there I am with reality, reminding him all those things.
It's so essential, because you can't explode your business without actually having the steps in place first. Like there's a business we know, they're making over $30 million a year, no big deal. And they want to open up I guess, merchandise side of the business, but they keep having to put that off, even though the CEO of this company is like, I really want this side of the business, but they have to put it off so that they can keep maintaining that $30 million. You have to be realistic. You can't afford not to be.
Yeah. And that's I love that point too, because a lot of entrepreneurs jump in and are the visionary pieces, and they look at a lot of the people in their lives as like the dream killers. I think we actually have an episode titled where we called someone the dream killer. But sometimes you need to have those voices in your head to make sure you're staying on track with what it is you're trying to do, because we've seen so many people get into entrepreneurship and building a business, and then they pivot and they're going that way. And then they pivot 2 months later and they're going over there. And it's like bing, 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 bing. They're back and forth with all the ideas until you can find some voices to be that reality for you, and to make sure that you're not skipping out on all the details while you're trying to build this thing. You're not going to be as successful as you potentially could be. And I think a lot of us tend to, it's like it's black or white, oh, well, if you don't support me, you're not on my team. If you don't like what I'm doing, I don't want to hear from you. But sometimes there's a little bit of a gray area in there where you have to open yourself up to those criticisms a little bit in order to grow yourself and learn some of the things that you need to learn in order to grow your business. And sometimes it's your partner, so that really sucks. But, you each have to learn, your partner has to learn how to tell you those things, or how to bring those things up without crushing your dreams. Like, that's what I had to learn how to do. And then you as the visionary have to learn how to accept those questions without freaking out and thinking that person is telling you it's a horrible idea.
Totally.
Yes. So that whole thing came up because somebody on the outside prompted you guys with some questions that you could then use. I'm curious, like, I know we hire a lot of people to help us, not only business-wise, but also life-wise. So who are some of kind of like the key roles that you guys have hired as you've been obviously growing your relationship and then growing your business? Like, obviously one of those was a coach. Were there any other roles that have been pivotal in helping you guys get to where you are?
Yeah. I was waiting to see if you were going to answer. Alex Sharpin is a coach that we work with and is just incredible for business, but also lifestyle, that he teaches the routines that he implements. He is very much about his family. He walks the walk. Like, he's really such a genuine person who has built multi-million-dollar businesses and also has work-life balance and homeschools their kids and has a wonderful relationship with his wife. Like, that is relationship goals. So that's someone that we follow closely, and we're in his mastermind, and he's a great person to learn from.
Yeah. Brandon Lucero.
Sure. Yeah. He's a friend of ours, and he was someone that took me on. The story is wonderful that I joined a course that he put out with a business partner, and I wasn't supposed to be in the VIP group, but somehow I accidentally got put into the VIP. And so I got this invitation to attend an event, and I was like, I'm not supposed to actually be here, but I want to. Like, can I just pay extra now to join the VIP and go to this event? And so I met him, as he was one of the two teachers of this course, and met him, and we totally hit it off. And we were just friends for a couple months, and he was supporting me through a lot of my business struggles. And I had this big fork in the road where I had to decide if I was going to stay on with the client or continue, because it was a difficult boundaries but a big source of my income. And he said, when you're ready, I'm going to help you. And I didn't realize what he really meant at that time. But when I finally made the decision to leave that client, he's like, Kate, you're on with me now. And we had calls every single day at 9 a.m. and he would mentor me every single day. And I actually worked in his business, that I helped him with some launches, and I got to learn by doing hands-on work with him. And he's a wonderful friend and role model and mentor to both of us now. So he's also someone that has impacted our life so much.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you mentioned Alex. So we're actually bringing Alex and Katie on later as part of this series, because same type of thing. Like, it was funny when we first met Alex. I met him a couple weeks online before I met him live. And then as we were talking to him, like everything he said, Ariana would just poke me and be like, yep, that's you. Like, yep, that's you.
You have some effect on people.
Yeah. Well, I think he's one of the few people out there that actually understands how to really build a business and what's involved in it. Because, like I've been a consultant for years in Fortune 500 as well as with entrepreneurs and startups. And to be honest, most consultants aren't worth their weight. And it was cool to see him. And then as we got talking more, it was like our views on life and family were very much aligned as well. So it's great to see, I think, other leaders out there not only helping people build businesses, but build it in support of the lives that they're looking for, and not have to be like work the 100 hours a week and then hope for your family's there. Like once you find success, it's like, no, you can actually do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Alex is the most genuine. He's worth his weight in gold, and he helps people to make their dent in the universe. He helps people who want to make an impact and contribute. And like you said, be able to create the lifestyle, create a business that fuels your lifestyle, not runs your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's another tagline right there. All these quotable quotes.
I should like write them down or something.
All right. So we have covered a range of topics and a lot of your story here on the show today. What is one particular thing you'd like for listeners to take away from hearing you guys? Marley, I guess you can go first.
For me, it was before Wayne joined my business, I was really struggling with, I guess, explaining what it is that I did and wanting to reconnect with him, but not sure how to show him other than having him join the business. And I was also the kind of person that was kind of scared to ask for help, but growing my team and having Wayne be the heart of that is what made us grow. Like there's that quote, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to, I might be butchering it. If you want to go further, go together.
Mm-hmm.
I totally ruined it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go, yeah, I'm going to forget it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And Wayne joining my business has made us closer. We get to spend every day together. And a lot of people might ask, like, wouldn't that drive you crazy to spend all your time together?
We get that question.
We love it. I wouldn't change it. I don't want to change it. We travel a lot. Every time we travel, we pretend we're going on another honeymoon. So we're on like honeymoon or something. But it's just, I feel so grateful that we get to build a life like this and that we get to choose how we live.
Love that. What about you, Wayne?
I would just say communicate. Like if you're not sure about something, or if you need help, or I don't know, anything. Like for the longest time, I was when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't really communicate that with Marley. And when I started to explain that I didn't really know what to do, she kind of led the path, and then I figured it out, and now it's really good. So.
Yeah, I think, I love that. Communicating and asking for help is a big one. I think even just in personal life too. So I love that. All right. Where is the best place for people to reach out and connect with you guys if they want to find you and say hi?
Yeah, well, facebook.com/Marley Baird Media. And we also have the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Marley Baird Media. And we have some pretty fun stuff coming in November. We're launching a whole new series that Wayne is also, I know he doesn't want to be in the limelight, but he's going to be in this. It's going to be so fun and hilarious and insightful, where we're going to be kind of living a day in the life of other influencers and thought leaders and studying their habits and showing what a day in the life is when we try to replicate their strategies.
Oh my gosh,
awesome.
That sounds so much fun. So definitely going to go follow you guys on YouTube right after this.
Yeah, that'll be coming out soon. Right now we do have video marketing and business tips and thought leadership motivation up there, and it's all free content. Yeah. And then in November, that's when we're going to be launching Influenced.
Ooh, exciting. All right, you guys, it has been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders. And we want to extend a very special thank you to you, Marley and Wayne, for coming on today. Thank you guys so much for sharing your story and all of your experiences with us.
Thank you so much.
All right. And as always, I want you guys to remember that it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you know another entrepreneur who may benefit from hearing this show, we would so appreciate you being a good friend and sharing it with them. And just a reminder, as a special offer during this super special Couples in Entrepreneurship Month, We'd like to invite you to get started with your first month of Lifestyle Builders for only $1. Sign up now at tomandariana.com/lbcouples with the promo code LBCouples. Are you a Lifestyle Builders podcast fan? We'd love to hear from you. Head on over to tomandariana.com/iTunes and leave us a review.